There he is.
What's up?
Contact. How are you, man?
I'm all right. Hang on. Hey, I can see you.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, happy belated birthday. When was your birthday?
It's the 17th, so
Okay.
a week ago, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Do anything fun out there or what?
No, I prepared myself for surgery, which I had the next day.
Oh no.
2 weeks ago, I had a torn bicep tendon. So yeah, not exactly the standard birthday.
Yeah.
Well, with the pandemic and the looming surgery and whatnot,
Right. Exactly. So, have you been able to play drums or no?
Oh no, I'm out. I'm on the bench for about 3 months. I got a lot of rehab ahead of me.
Okay. All right, I got you. Yeah, it's a crazy time. Of course, like you say, you got to put the glasses on. You got your surgery. See, we're all getting older too. So, oh, there it is. Wow.
I just got out of the actual cast they gave me for surgery, and then they wrapped this new one on. I thought I was out of the woods, and then they're like, "No, we're just fitting you for one that you can take off to shower with." So at least I got that going for me.
That's cool. That's like some medieval type thing there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So 2 weeks with the the old school cast and the itching like crazy. If I stepped outside for 2 minutes in the humidity of Nashville, Tennessee, my arm itched for the next 8 hours. That's nice.
Yeah. So you're down. Is that where you've been living now for a while now, Nashville?
Yeah, I've been here for 16 years. 2004 we got here. So I grew up from the age of 10 anyway, about an hour north of here in Kentucky. So Nashville's always been a really familiar place to me.
Now, have you worked on other people's projects since you've been down in Nashville?
Yeah, when I first got here, I did a ton of sessions, all kinds of stuff. And when the Crows went back on the road in 05, and then 5 through 10, the Black Crows were really busy. So the session thing was, by the time, I probably by 2008, they were really tapering off because a lot of the stuff in town, I mean, a producer just wants to know if you can make it tomorrow. Like, hey, man, are you around? And, I wouldn't say I'm leaving on tour. I'd still take the call, because I really enjoyed it. It's a whole different life than doing your own music. It's a whole different experience. It's always a lot of fun. But by the time I got, by 2009, I was actually started doing radio myself, and I just sort of took myself out of the whole session game.
Yeah, so I was going to go down to Nashville at the end of March, and of course, everything kind of erupted. Kid Rock and Tom Kiefer and Brad Arnold are some of my friends. I was going to go down to see them. So you've probably seen the evolution of Nashville's always been kind of a music mecca per se, but in the last 15, 16 years since you've been there, it's probably grown exponentially, hasn't it?
It's nuts, man. I was here in the 80s a lot. I went to high school and college an hour away. So Nashville is where you would go to see bands, like those really, the really most impactful years of my life to make me think I wanted to do this myself. All was spent going to see club shows in Nashville. And so when I got here in 04, I thought, it was night and day from the late 80s. I mean, it just seemed like a whole nother planet. But the 16 years since I got here in 04 make what happened before look like nothing. I mean, there's just no way to do, it's a boom town and then some is what it's been like. And absolutely the last 10 years, like when the economy tanked in 07 and 08, like downtown didn't slow down. You know what I mean? Like the whole world was having this awful few years of very little movement forward. And that's really when Nashville started to explode, oddly enough.
Now, I was thinking about this when I was coming in today. Since you left the Black Crows, did you ever audition for any other bands? I mean, you say you did some studio work and stuff like that, but was there ever do you ever try out for any other bands or no?
Well, I didn't know. I have a band, Trigger Hippie. That's my band. I've started years ago, and so that's what I do.
Okay.
I haven't. No, I mean I haven't. I haven't auditioned for anything. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that I just kind of do what I want to do. And which is not to say I wouldn't go play with another band, but if somebody called and said, "Hey, we need a drummer," there'd have to be a lot of things that a lot of boxes would have to get checked before that would be of interest to me.
So when I told my friends on social media that I was going to be talking to, of course, the book Hard to Handle: The Life and Death of the Black Crows, a lot of people here in Detroit especially, and I've talked to you about this before, wanted to know about Eddie Harsh. And I remember talking to you before about this, that the death of Eddie kind of precipitated you writing the book. Is that correct?
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, I had thought about writing a book for years, and it was something that in the back of my mind I knew might make sense one day, but it just never it made sense. I could see it intellectually didn't feel right, if that makes sense. And Ed's death, not like immediately. It was in the months following Eddie's death that it really started to wash over me that it felt okay to think about this now. You know, I mean, Ed, I mean, the Black Crowes to me were already gone and dead and they weren't coming back. But Ed's death just was this, a level of acceptance of that and an understanding of that fact that I just couldn't have had before. I mean, without Ed, the essence of the Black Crowes that matters to me is forever gone. You know, the things that made that band its best at its best, Ed was a huge part of. And the idea that he's gone just meant, well, then the Black Crowes are absolutely gone. And I was able to, whatever I was holding on to, which it was all subconscious, I didn't think I was, whatever was still there all went away. And within a few months of his passing, I thought, I totally feel how I'm going to feel and think about this forever. And I can write the book now because this isn't going to change. I'm not going to feel or think any differently. It all settled into place and I made peace with all of it. And I thought, okay, well, this is a place I can actually write from. You know, there's always going to be sadness about a lot of what went down with the Black Crowes. There's also always going to be a tremendous gratitude and appreciation for every bit of it. So that's when I felt that I was like, oh, I can write from here. Sure.
Yeah. And
I will say one other thing on I was doing my sports talk show at that time. And the day Eddie died, I wrote essentially a eulogy for him. I opened my show with like a 12-minute tribute to Ed. And just writing that, just actually sitting and writing all that down ahead of time. I mean, I did have that thought then, which is, oh, I'm writing this and it's really easy to write. It's really hard to stop writing. Like I could have written about Ed for 6 hours. And that later looking back, I was like, well, wait, I realized that day, like, okay, I can do this now.
Yeah, you were writing a eulogy for Eddie, but also maybe a eulogy for your time in the band.
Sure. Yeah. You know, and I've said, and it can sound trite or harsh. Well, not harsh. It can sound, I don't mean it to, but you can know that somebody has passed on. You can know that something in your life is dead. You know, when I realized it was time, you know, but like until you go through all of the processes of grief, until you see that body in the casket, I'm speaking figuratively now. Like Ed's death showed me the Black Crowes' death. You know, like his literal death meant the essence of that band to me was absolutely dead and not to come back. And that's okay. I mean, bands have a run, bands have their time, and more often than not, bands go away. So I'm not struggling at all with the fact that the Black Crowes to me don't exist. It just there was a piece that was missing in that understanding that I didn't realize was missing until it appeared. And I hate to say it, but it was Ed's death that really brought that all right to the forefront.
And if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think I recall in one of our interviews that we talked before about this, that you thought the Black Crowes were always pretty good. But when Ed joined the band, it made it really good.
Oh yeah, well we were in the process of becoming a great rock and roll band. We had been on the road for about 10 months when Ed joined us. So, and for the first time ever, because as a local band in Atlanta, when we were called Mr. Crow's Garden, you know, we'd go out and play weekends. We'd do a Thursday, Friday, Saturday run every other weekend. You know, that was the most, we'd never toured. I think we had a 4-night in a row run one time ever before Shake Your Moneymaker was released. That was it, once. And so, you know, those first 8, 9, 10 months on the road in 1990 for us were phenomenally impactful. I mean, we went from a band that had a great album and that was we went from a band that was pretty good at times trying to be great to a really legitimately great rock and roll band. And then when Ed joined, it was just at this perfect time when, you know, he was like the rabbit on the dog track. He was in front of us. And we all thought, how do we keep up with that guy? Let's do that. And so the band had already figured out how to be a great collective piece. You know, we were a unit and a very formidable rock and roll band in January of 91. When Ed showed up, everybody had individual goals they suddenly were able to acknowledge and recognize. And so his understanding of music, of just music generally speaking, of all sorts, was so much deeper than any of us had at that time.
Yeah, I bumped into him a few times here in Detroit. I can't say I knew him or anything, but I run into him here and there. And going back in your life real fast for some of the people are watching locally. So you grew up in Western Michigan, right? How old were you when you left?
Oh, I was a baby. I mean, I was born in Muskegon. My folks are both from Detroit. I mean, they are Detroit born and raised. And then I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and so I think the first 3 Gorman kids of my family were also born in Detroit. And then my dad had a job that moved him around a bit. So then a couple were born in New Jersey, and then the last 3 were all born in Muskegon. And then when I was still a baby, we moved to Baltimore. So I grew up really in just south of Baltimore till I was 10, and from there to Kentucky. But all family roots go right back to Detroit.
All right, because I saw on your Instagram a few weeks ago, you posted a picture of you back in the day driving. You had a Michigan jersey on, so I wasn't sure how long you had stayed here.
Oh yeah, no, not long at all. But I'm in Ann Arbor every Saturday in the fall. Which for the 80s and 90s was not a bad place to be. It's been a little rough the last 20 years, but we all have our crosses to bear.
Yeah, one of my friends threw an outdoor tailgate party this past weekend, and he replayed the Appalachian State game. So,
oh my God.
He said it just fits the 2020 narrative.
Well, as any other Michigan fan remembers, I mean, I don't think I've ever had more text messages, literally ever, in one day than that day. Like people I went to college with and hadn't talked to in decades. It was unbelievable, man. Like, my kids are born. Not as much interaction. I mean, that was the single most activity I've ever received in one moment in my life.
I think one of my most was when the Red Wings lost the Stanley Cup here in Detroit against Pittsburgh. Even my grandmother called me from Western New York to bust my chops.
Yeah.
She's like,
give
me grief.
Well, everybody loves, the Red Wings had that ridiculous run for so long. It's like they're going to take their shots when they can. Yeah,
no doubt. Man, it was a great run while it lasted. Were you watching from the outside all those Red Wings victories?
Yeah, and I didn't grow up a hockey fan, but so I was by default I was always a Red Wings fan because when I moved to Maryland, there's not a team there.
Yeah.
Right. So and my older brothers again. So it was Michigan football. My oldest brothers are all still Tigers fans, but I'm an Orioles fan. And then they were Pistons fans. I was a Bullets fan. It just depends. It's because I was so young when I got there. But since there was no hockey team, it was absolutely Red Wings. And then through my cousins and other friends up in Michigan, I was definitely a peripheral way to go 90s Red Wing fan. But I can't say it was like I was losing sleep over it.
Yeah, I know. My son likes to, he's a little bit old past this now, but he used to like to root against every team I liked. And so one time I took him to the Harlem Globetrotters. He starts rooting for the Generals. I said, they're not going to win. He's like, you don't know that. I said, yeah, I do know that. Oh, I think you just muted your. Okay, go ahead. You're good.
Oh, I was turning off an alarm or something. I grew up a Lakers fan solely because they were playing the Bullets once, and just to annoy my older brother, who's a Bullets fan, I said I like the Lakers. And then I had to hang on to it forever. And then, they got Jabbar right after that. And then 5 years later, they got Magic. So it was all good. But, but people said, like, why the Lakers? I was just trying to piss Jim off. Real simple.
Hey, when you would come to Detroit with the Black Crows and stuff, did you have to take care of a lot of family members? Or all your family members kind of get out? Yeah.
Well, my cousins, my cousin Jeffrey, my dad's brother Larry, they're up in Livonia to this still. Larry and Dolores, my aunt and uncle, they're in Livonia, and their 3 kids all grew up there, and I've been very close with them my whole life. So Jeffrey actually worked. He's 3 years younger than me. He worked for the Crows for years, off and on. In the mid '90s, he was actually on stage in an Uncle Sam dancing Black Crows costume. If anybody ever saw those tours, that was my cousin from Livonia. So they would always show up, and then I knew they always had friends, and then there's other cousins and second cousins and extended family in the area, a lot of whom I would meet for the first time backstage at the Black Crows show. A lot of hey cuz, and I'd go okay, sure, if you say so. But all of Michigan is, while it was never really my home. Of course, it's my family's home, so it always. Anywhere in the area, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Lansing, anything, even Grand Rapids, I was always well aware of the fact that was kind of where it all started for us as a family.
So you put out this book, Hard to Handle, The Life and Death of the Black Crows. Did you leave everything out on the table, or is there still more in the tank for maybe?
No. I wrote 3 times that much. I turned the book in, and the publisher was like, "What is wrong with you? This is over 900 pages long." I was like, "Hey, I didn't know how long it was going to be. I just knew I was going to write for a while." So, no, there's way more going on. I mean, there was way more going on then, and there's plenty of things that aren't in the book that easily could have been. I mean, as you know, it's the oldest cliche in the world, but I certainly found it to be true, which is writing is just a series of decisions. What are you trying? What is the story you're trying to tell? What best tells that story, and what's maybe really good in material, or really funny, or really sad, or whatever. But there's a ton of stuff that I thought was really good. It didn't necessarily change. It didn't move the narrative along as well. I wanted the book by design to be easy to read. It's dark. There's a lot of sadness in that book and stuff, but it also just moves through. I didn't want to get people bogged down. One thing the publisher said when I first got a publishing deal, he said, "Just remember, nobody's ever recommended a book they didn't finish." And I went, yeah. Hey, that really makes sense. And I turned in 900 pages, and it would have been very Black Crowes like of me to insist that all be released. And I thought, no, I'm trying to learn from a lot of the mistakes we made along the way. I think I'm gonna, and to his credit, the guy at the book company said, "You got to go back and edit this. If I try to chop this down, you'll hate me." So, and my partner Stephen Hayden, that's where he really, I always say I wrote the book and he produced it, because we put together the narrative sort of ahead of time. And then I went and wrote this monolithic 980 page, whatever it is. And then as I was sending him the completed chapters, he was already in his head. He was laughing because he was like, "This is way too long." He wouldn't say that to me. And so he was already thinking about the overall arc and realizing where we could sort of chop and, nip and tuck. And so I had, which is hugely important. I've said for years, I could have done it by myself. It would have taken 5 years and nobody would have ever finished it. So Stephen gets full props for this book being as well received as it has been.
And you keep using the word narrative, and it's kind of funny because I remember in one interview, I never forgot this line. You said that I asked you if the Robinson brothers had read it or seen it or whatever, and you said they just couldn't believe I had the audacity to put out my own narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
It's my version of events. I mean, I in no way, shape, or form was I suggesting this is a comprehensive history of the Black Crowes experience. This was just the way it looked and felt to me. It is my experience. It's all true. But within that, I say this a little bit towards the end of the book too. This in your own life. You've been in a room with 4 other people, and a 5th person walks in and gives you all a large amount of information. And then the 4 people start talking about it, and everybody heard different things. You know what I mean? It's like a game of telephone in real time. And the Black Crowes felt like that for 27 years. The way I process information and the way Chris and Rich process information was always completely different. They're different from each other. I'm different from them. When Johnny and Jeff were in the band, as many ears as were in the room, that's how many different views there were on how things were. So I've never attempted to say this is a definitive anything other than this is what happened for Steve Gorman in the Black, for 27 years. And it was everything I asked for and more. I signed up, buy the ticket, take the ride. And I don't have any regrets. Would I have done certain things differently? Well, of course, but that's no different than anybody else in life.
Right.
I'm very pleased with, where I am today. So it's all good.
So when we talked one time, you said that you told me the story about how you were getting ready to leave the band, and then this gig came up with Jimmy Plant. Somebody asked me, Jimmy Page, somebody asked me, did Jimmy Page ask you to replicate John Bonham's parts, or were you able to put your own spin on it? So a listener asked me about that.
No, he never suggested to anybody that we do that. Well, that's not true. There was a little bit. The one thing that was different about Jimmy Page and the Black Crowes than anything else Jimmy had ever done was because we had 3 guitars. We learned the studio versions of those songs. Like, Led Zeppelin would play things live very differently. When Page Plant got together, they would go back and play songs, and they were much more like Zeppelin had done it than the album versions. So what we decided to do was take the album versions that everybody's heard a million times and really stick to those as much as possible, because there's a lot of layered guitar tracks on those records. And so now Jimmy had two other guitar players that he could say, I'll play this part, you play that part, you play that part. And let's recreate some of those sounds in a way that I've never been able to do live. Because obviously Led Zeppelin was just one guitar on stage, responsible for, and you know, like Physical Graffiti, there's songs on there that have a dozen guitar tracks.
Right.
And Jimmy's trying to play as much of all of them as he can to make it sound good. So with us, the guitar parts were the things that were worked on the most, just between Rich and Audley and Jimmy to get to understand each other's part. But for me and Sven, the bassist, it was all about feel. He never said, hey, go get those kick patterns just right. Go get that. I mean, obviously I was going to do that. I mean, I played the parts Bonham played, but I didn't stay attached to them. And a big part of that is because Led Zeppelin didn't stay attached to those things. Like their vibe was different night to night. It was always about the moment. And I thought, though, if you're going to do Bonham, you have to play it like that. It's not a cover band. It wasn't a tribute band. It was my band playing Led Zeppelin songs with Jimmy Page. Now, so you know, in a weird way, it's like he joined the Black Crowes. So we didn't have to change how we did anything. You know, there's 6 of us, and we are a unit that plays music a certain way. So we'll just put that Black Crowes filter on these songs we've all heard a million times. And so there wasn't a whole lot of linear conversation about that. We talked about the feel all the time and the spirit and just getting the vibe right. You know, that stuff was flying around all the time. It would be very different. I've said this a million times, but like if I walk into a room with Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and John Paul Jones, okay, that's some pressure. Then that's Led Zeppelin, and then it's like, oh my God, I gotta beat John Bonham. I never felt that with this situation, and that's why so successful. Nobody felt like they had to be somebody else. We were able to be ourselves.
Because you guys were already the Black Crowes. You guys were already hugely successful.
We were 10 years in.
One of you guys.
Yeah, we were 10 years in to our career. So, you know, it's one of those things where when it was actually happening in the moment, it was just a gig like any other. It was really fun and it was cool, but it's still a gig. You know, you get home, get back to the hotel every night and go, oh my God, we just played with Jimmy Page. But when it was happening, it's the most natural thing in the world, you know? The funniest thing.
Yeah, it's funny.
I was going to say, we did the Palace at Auburn Hills the summer of 2000. And I'd forgotten all about this. And we were walking to the stage and it's, you know, sold out and it's Detroit. You know what I mean? It's just like it is. They are ready. They are having it. You know what I mean? It's like rock show. And as we walk up to the stage, it's pitch black in the arena. And it's so loud. And it is like, for me, it was a moment of like, man, we're playing the Palace and this is with Jimmy Page. And, you know, I remember being in Livonia and seeing Led Zeppelin posters on my cousin Marion's wall in 1978. You know what I mean? And suddenly I'm like, man, this is cool, right? And as we're right as we're approaching the steps to walk up to the stage, Jimmy just suddenly looks back and goes, I think the last time I played here, someone tried to kill me. And that was it. And then he just keeps walking. And I'm like, wait, what? And it was true. Page Plant played there. And a guy came after him with a knife.
Really?
And it just occurred to him on the way up the steps. And he thought to share that with me. So I go out there and I sit at the kit and I'm like, what the fuck? Oh my God. Next time to drop that on me, dude. It was great. But that was that night was stomping, man. That was a good one.
Yeah. How many dates did you play with Jimmy? Do you recall?
Yeah, we did 6 in the fall of 99. And then we had 55 shows scheduled for the summer and fall of 2000. And we did 11 of those 55. So I believe that is 17 shows total.
So what happened to the other shows?
Well, if anybody wants to pick up a copy of my book, they can find out.
I got you. Okay, fair enough. All right, so some other questions from some listeners. And I don't know, I'm just going to throw this one out at you. I don't know where you stand on this. If the brothers would have asked you to go and done the 30th anniversary, would you have gone? That's a question from No. Yeah.
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and in fact, their manager did reach out to me one time in the fall of 2018, and I was just like, I've known that the guy who manages them now, not our manager, the band's manager was Pete Angelis from 1990 through 2013. And then the guy who's now managing them was a record company exec that we knew in the 90s. And he called me and it was obvious just feeling me out without saying anything. And I just thought it was funny. I mean, no animosity. I was laughing, going, "Hey, good luck, dude. This will be quite the shit show. Good luck to you. Go for it, bud. I don't want to be within a mile of that thing."
Yeah. Is there a party that misses the big stage like that?
No, I never think about it. I mean, I'm been really busy. Because when the band, as soon as the tour ended in 2013, and my radio show got picked up nationally that month, like January of 14. Mm-hmm. My sports show on Fox Sports Radio went nationwide that month. So I was in over my head in a whole new endeavor real fast. I jumped in, and that took all my focus. And so, like with any new radio show, especially talk radio, it takes a few months to find your footing. And my cousin, who's from Livonia, Jeffrey, was my co-host. So we're very close, and we'd worked. We'd been together our whole lives, but we'd never done radio together. So it takes a while to figure out your radio chemistry as opposed to your cousin chemistry. But then that was a blast, and so that kept me very focused. It was a couple months after that tour that the band really blew up. That's when Chris, our singer, demanded for the future to the lion's share of the money. He actually wanted me out of the band because I got a national radio show. And so when someone says that after 27 years, my reaction wasn't even to be upset. It was just, I'm never going to be in a room with this guy again. That's just crazy. Yeah. And you give people enough rope and eventually they hang themselves. And that's just like all bands. You have all these different views on what priorities are and what your values are. And everybody, when you're 20 and 21 and 19, you don't talk about that stuff. You just, you like how you play together and you get a vibe and you're like a little gang and you go out and you take over the world. And then eventually you have to start figuring out what are our values as a band, and do we respect each other's values individually? And, can we balance all this stuff? And we were never good at communicating those things at all. Like most bands aren't, at least not as younger men. So when the way it ended in 2014, it's incomprehensible to me to ever go back and work with somebody who thought that made sense. Like that was just the final straw of a million weird straws. And it was, to his credit, it's like, great, thank you. That was as clean a break as you could have given me to think that made sense. And to ruin to take that band. It's fine for the band to be gone. In fact, our plan was to do a tour in 2015 and then call it a day. That's what we spent all of 2013 planning. Let's do the 25th anniversary and then that's it. And his response was, okay, I'll do it, but I need all the money now. It's just like, well, see you later. Have fun. And they're going to, if they ever do go out and do this tour they want to do, that's awesome. I love that people love that music. It's no skin off my back. Mm. I mean, and as I said when their manager called, I was like, yeah, good luck. Good luck trying to find somebody that can sound like that band.
Yeah, right. Speaking of concerts, I went to this Metallica driving concert over the weekend. That was so cool. I mean, it was just...
Where was that? Wasn't that out west?
Well, they did it all through North America.
Oh, I got it. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
It was a one-night only thing, but I was just, would anything like that interest you going to see something like that? I thought it was kick-ass, to be quite honest.
I don't think I'd go see something like that just because I don't, going to see shows isn't the same for me. Doesn't mean I wouldn't. My band Trigger Hippie had a drive-in show, kind of just a one-off we had. We were going to do it. It was 3 weeks ago, and we had to cancel because I screwed my arm up. It's like there's just no way to get it done. I'm out. I can't pick up a drumstick for about 3 months, but but otherwise that was I don't know. It's really weird. I think because we were working a lot in the fall and the spring. And when everything sort of got shuttered, I was able to kind of turn that thing off in my head. I'm not thinking about gigs or concerts it's too frustrating to even entertain the notion. So it's easier to just know that it'll come back eventually and nothing I do is going to speed that process along. So I'll be as happy as anybody could possibly be when someone says you can go play another gig. But until then, I'm just going to keep my mind elsewhere.
Hey, real fast while I'm thinking about it, I got to thank our sponsors, Sailor Jerry's Rum and also the Diamond Vault in Troy. They help us out with these. By the way, is this the first time you've done something like this?
No, I did. I'm trying to think. I did another Instagram live interview recently, and I cannot for the life of me tell you who it was with. Oh, you know who it was? It was a buddy of mine. Jeffrey Clemens, who's the drummer from G Love and Special Sauce Forever.
Oh, okay.
And he just does a Sunday night series, of these. And that was through Instagram. I mean, I've done a ton of Zoom interviews and things like this on other platforms. But as far as Instagram Live, this is just the second one of these.
Yeah, you've done a lot of interviews. As a matter of fact, last time you were here in Detroit, you were at Rock City Music. And Nick, of course, is the owner. He's a friend of mine. And he wanted to know
Nick is good people. Allow me to take a moment and tell you that event, I did a ton of book events, and there's a whole bunch of them, and then there's that one.
Yeah.
Like that was the border collie at the dog park. You know what I mean? Like that was so far and above and beyond. And not to discredit anybody else's great effort, but man, Nick and those guys at Rock City, they went berserk for it. It was great.
Yeah, and that was in Livonia, so maybe your relatives were there. I couldn't make it that day. Were your relatives there? Your cousin and your uncle and stuff?
I'm back.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
I finally had to disarm whatever the hell that thing was on my phone. All right, I'm back.
I was going to ask you were in Livonia. Were some of your relatives there with you that day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my aunt and uncle were there, and my cousin Marianne. Yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nick wants to know why a handful of Black Crowes records aren't on vinyl.
Ask the Black Crowes.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah,
they don't know the answer either, but you could ask them because they're they still have the name. I don't know. I'm not. I am so gratefully not involved in any of those things. And it's funny because people have said too, like, man, doesn't it bother you to to think about them going out? And it's like the last 7 years of my life not being in the middle of that family fight that was a band have been great. There's nothing less appealing to me than getting on the phone and trying to navigate a conversation with two people that want to kill each other every day.
Yeah, somebody asked me, they ask me all the time, who are my favorite interviews? And then sometimes people ask me, who are your least favorite interviews? And you don't have to comment on this, but I got to put Rich Robinson up there. As a matter of fact, I had a chance to interview him last year, and I just said, no, I'm just not going to.
When Chris is feeling it, he's as good an interview as you can get, and Rich is they're just exact opposite on every level. And Rich has never been one to. He just refused to think of it in terms of. I think like you're doing an interview, you're promoting the band, you're talking, you're spreading goodwill.
Right.
He just doesn't have that gene in him. You know what I mean? So, if he's just ate a bad sandwich, that's the mood he's going to bring to the interview. You know what I mean? It's just it's a thing. But they were like that when I met. They were polar opposites the day I met them. None of that was necessarily fame and fortune messing with them. They're just who they are.
Yeah. I don't recall ever saying no to another interview, to be quite honest with you. Most of them, most of them I look as a challenge or something like that. But I had that challenge and I was done with that challenge.
Yeah, right.
I'll move on. But
he's done a wonderful job of speaking through his guitar. I'll give him full props for that because he is a very unique. That's the best word for him. It's very. I know a lot of great musicians and tremendous guitarists, and anybody trying to replicate what he does with his right hand, I wish them all the luck in the world. It's pretty impossible.
Yeah. Well, listen, Steve, I'll tell you what, we'll cut you loose. Hard to handle the life and death of the Black Crowes. It's been out for quite some time, and it's not 900 pages.
No, it's not. Is there
going to be another one, or?
I don't know. We just put the paperback versions out now. There's a lot of I do think down the road there'll probably be a reason to do a much larger, way more involved, way more photos. A lot of we could do like a limited edition, ginormous sort of table book version. I think there are enough people out there that want to. That would want to pay for that kind of thing. It wouldn't be a mass produced thing, but I know that there's, for Black Crowes fans, they'll take anything that you want to give them, but I wouldn't want to strap it. If I were going to release the whole thing or a much larger version, I would really want to make sure it was worth everyone's while. Like it's not just more text. You'd have to really really put a lot of thought into it, how to make it worth. The simple fact is to publish a 900-page book is really expensive. When I sent it in, one of the things the guy said is, he goes, "What do you want this to charge? You want to charge people $90?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think of that." I just thought it was all gold, baby. So down the road, I mean, I don't rule out anything as far as all that's concerned, but I don't have any plans yet. I'm not figuring out what it is yet, but down the road, I could certainly see something happening like that.
Yeah. Well, listen, good luck to you. Next time you're here in your second hometown of Livonia, maybe I'll bump into you somewhere.
Well, man, Trigger Hippie we had a gig. I'm trying to think of what was it, the Magic Bag? Is that
Magic Bag? Yeah, that's not too far from the station.
We were going to be there this summer, and we had it all lined up, man. It's just it just winds me up again to talk about gigs and stuff. I can say the only good thing that's come out of this is this.
Yeah.
At least I'm not canceling shows because I have a messed up tendon. So when the guy said this is going to require surgery, the first thing I said was, well, thank God there's a pandemic. Because if I was canceling gigs for an injury, I would be homicidal right now. I'd be so mad at myself.
How long you got to wear that thing for still?
This is, 2 weeks ago was surgery. This is another couple weeks. And then after that, it's 8 weeks of daily physical therapy before I can. The guy told me today, he said, you can't hold anything heavier than an iPhone for another month in your right hand. Yeah. But at least this I can take off and put it back on. So showers are free under the equation. So that's nice. Baby steps, man. Baby steps.
Did you have like one of those, they got like the rulers you slide in and try to hit your arm?
I didn't. I just had to deal with it. I just sucked it up, man.
All right, Steve. Well, listen, thanks so much for the time. Good luck. And we'll see you on the road somewhere, hopefully down the road here in the future. Who knows when.
Yeah, right on, man. Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Cheers.